start just so that we have it. All right, so one thing I actually want to show folks, because I'm finding that people don't know about this step. When you're done reconciling for the month, and whether you do it monthly or whether you do it like you sit down all at once and do it, or you do it quarterly, it's very helpful to actually check the reconciliation report with the actual bank statement. So the way you do that, and actually I'm driving a little too fast here. Let me start that again. So let's say for the Frost checking account, we're done with December. I want to double check and make sure that everything that has gone through the bank is also in Xero. I know it's easy to assume that it is, and it's not always the case. Sometimes the feed will fall off or something. So I do this, and this process of doing this report at the end of every month will help with the year end, because if you've got something that's out of alignment, you can usually catch it in that month. So you go to the three little dots, and then you go to the reconciliation report. And then you basically change this date to be whatever your end date of the statement is, and you hit update. And now this is a little tricky, because these might, like this right now looks like it's an alignment. Mm-hmm. Right? But I still look at the actual bank statement and make sure that this number matches the bank statement. So that's something that saved me a lot of headache. I learned the hard way, because I had to go back and do a couple of years worth when PayPal had fallen off at one point. So I just wanted to start with that. It's like a little something to add to your routine if you're not doing this regularly. And if you're completely out of alignment, you can email me. We'll figure it out. All right, so all of the reports are under accounting, and then you may have some saved in your menu here, but for today, we will just go to reports.
Was I your inspiration for showing that?
Oh no, it was actually Nashville. Like I can't remember why one year I discovered that it was off, and I had to go back to the beginning. So no, in fact, when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I've done this before. It happens a lot, actually.
On this checklist, it mentions a reconciliation report to be submitted.
Oh, yes. Let me show you that. Well, you can do it one of two ways. You can go, let's see. So again, the three little dots are helpful, and then the reconciliation report.
So this is the reconciliation report they're asking about, is the one you're just telling us about.
Yes, and so if you go, I don't know, can you all see my screen? Once you pull it up and see this, then you can go down here to export. And it'll give you three choices, Excel, PDF, or Google Sheets. So Barbara, was it you? Someone said that you couldn't do, someone said they couldn't do, oh no, maybe Alice, that you couldn't do Excel. You could do Google Sheets on this. And so you just click on this, and then it will create a file for you.
You want that on each of the accounts we're working with, like our PayPal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take long.
No, it's straightforward if you're already reconciled.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah. And so I'll open it up and just show you what it looks like.
But now you probably needed to select December 31st.
I did, yeah. I was just showing you what it would look like. So yeah, like this one, you would see, this is what it looks like when things, like if you haven't reconciled everything, it'll show up like this, so. But it's a pretty simple process, and then I just save this in a file and send it in. So that's the reconciliation report. Any questions on that one?
On that, what does it mean on the button? What happens when on that button that says publish?
The publish is kind of in the back kind of corner of Xero. You can have a place where you've published reports. I think it's for when you're working more with teams. And like, let's say, Paul, like you and I were working together, and like you did a report and you published it, and then I went to look at it. I don't actually use the publish function because it's pretty much, if I'm like downloading something, I'm sending it out to people that aren't in Xero. So that's the way I've been using it, is I haven't been, if that makes any sense. But I'll show you, if you go to accounting and reports, you see up here, it says summary, custom, advisor, drafts. If you had published them, like let's say you wanted to keep a record of them in Xero, then if you've published them, they would be under this tab. So some people, I have found that some people like to do it because they'll have a record, and like, let's say you need a March profit and loss. You don't have to go back and set it all up again. You'll have it in here. So so the income statement and the profit and loss are the same. They're using the same language. I find for the report to Shambhala Global, the new one, the one that says new, is actually easier. You can use the other one, but this one tends to be a little bit cleaner. And Xero has updated this now so that you can just click on the drop down arrow and just say last financial year. So you don't even have to get in there and kind of mess around with things. And then just make sure you hit update. So this will give you everything. And then at the very bottom, it's probably it's probably under our row of faces, but there's a button that says export, and then you can export it and save it as Excel.
Do you want the account numbers with these when we submit those?
We don't need the account numbers, no. I know in QuickBooks it would pull it up, but on here it doesn't, and that's okay. So that's basically the income statement. And then the balance sheet. I just make sure that it's December 2020, and I'm actually not comparing it to anything. We actually have all the previous year data, so it's easy to just not compare it to anything. It's just a cleaner report, and then I click update. And then, oh, here you can see the export. So then you would just click export and then into Excel. I will tell you, we haven't gotten our, you know how when you submit everything to Shambhala Global and in the past they've gotten back to you with some adjustments to make, which they haven't gotten back to us in the last, they didn't get the 2019 adjustments. They did just finish the 2018 adjustments. They just finished 2019. So we will be sending those out, and I've asked David to talk to me about how we make the adjustments. So I might actually do another call about how to do that, because that's one of the challenges is, like, let's say the depreciation was adjusted by Shambhala Global, but we haven't adjusted it in our actual file in Xero, then it's off again the next year. So anyway, that's just a little aside. I'm talking to David tomorrow, so I'll email folks out if I'm going to do a call about that. I think it'll be pretty simple, but I know we haven't been doing it regularly. So let's see. I'm just going down the checklist right now. So we've done the reconciliation report. And pretty much everything that you'll want for this report is obviously under reports, but and I don't really know if anyone's using accounts receivable or accounts payable. Is anyone, if you want to unmute and let me know if you are in Xero? Yeah, I don't think so. In fact, I think that's actually a more expensive function with the subscription of Xero. So yeah. Let's see. So, all right, we will skip those. Now, you can do a lot with account transactions, and this report is under accounting. So pretty much any of the accounts that you have, you can pull up this way. So let's say there's one in here about, let's say like this, the restricted funds. There's one that's asking about restricted funds. So basically you pick the account from this drop down, and then the date range again can be last financial year. Make sure you remember to hit the update button. And then this is a little hard to see, but it will give you any activity that's happened in that account for the year. So we could use that report for, oh, like transfers to the center. If you're making transfers to Shambhala, you would, I happen to know it's 5,900. You would change it to transfers to core services and then just hit update. And this will give you a list of transfers, and then you can just hit export on that. So let's see. I think, oh, same thing for loans.
So I'm just curious, you're talking about transfer from the center to what do you call this?
Yeah, if something's going to SGS, they've asked for a list of those.
They want those, we treat them as transferred on the books?
If you have, this is like, these have been transferred. They've gone from the checking account, out of the checking account to Shambhala Global. So if you have done that this year where your center or your group has donated, they want.
You don't treat that donation as an expense, you just make a transfer.
That's the thing. They're trying to make sure they're not double counting revenue, because it's basically,
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Since
you would count it. I mean, technically you would count it as an expense because it is an expense account for you, for the center or the group.
Yeah, it seems like that's a little more straightforward than treating it as a transfer.
It's funny, they call it transfers, but it's basically you're making a payment to Shambhala Global Services.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just gonna pull up. Oh, the mortgage. Which I don't know, have I put, no, I actually haven't done the transactions in here yet. But if I had, they would be in here. This is something I have to do for the year-end cleanup. They actually have a mortgage, so I've been putting in the principal and the interest separately. So I think, let's see, budget. That's pretty tricky to do. I haven't heard of anyone doing a budget for this year yet. So we can talk about that if you want to, but.
What if you don't have a budget? You just
Yeah, I think no one has a budget this year. Yeah, we were just getting to the point where we were budgeting and then all of this happened. So. And if anyone's doing payroll, then that's just coming from, I'm assuming, your payroll company. Is anyone doing their own payroll? You can unmute if you are, or I don't, yeah, I feel like we don't have much payroll. I'm just looking over the list.
I use Gusto for payroll.
Great.
So yeah.
Is Gusto talking to Xero? Have you connected Gusto and Xero?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're really good too. I really like their system.
Yeah, they've been great. If anyone needs to use payroll, they've actually been really wonderful, and they talk very nicely to Xero. Yeah.
Do you have any? I think you mentioned loans. Did you mention loans? They're like the paycheck protection
Ah,
loans. Is there any thing that we should know in terms of reporting that?
that is a good question. Have you heard back about forgiveness yet?
No, we haven't applied yet because they keep sending us emails saying there's something even better coming for you to apply. You know, like it's supposed to get simple. The application to apply for forgiveness is supposed to get even simpler than it has
Oh,
been prior. And they say, don't worry, we'll send it to you. You still have time. Um, we'll let you know as soon as it's available. So I haven't applied yet, and
okay.
we're still within our time frame.
I have heard the second round, they have tried to simplify it.
Yeah.
Other centers that have definitely gotten some of the PPP funding. Um,
Do you know what's the criteria for a center to qualify?
hmm.
Well, I think um you have to have an employee at least, and
Oh, we have one of those.
yeah, okay, and you have to um not have reduced their hours a certain percentage
Oh, we were.
through. I think it's 25%, more than 25% or something, but you have to check exactly. I'm not exactly sure, but so you have to have continued to keep them on and pay them. But we found it was pretty easy for us to do in LA.
Yeah, it's definitely if anyone else has gotten it or is thinking of getting it, I think one other center has gotten it. I don't know that they've heard back about forgiveness yet. That we would treat it differently in the books. So for now, I would set it up separately as a separate liability account. And it would be good if it was clearly marked, just because we're not quite sure yet how it will need to be handled. So on the cases where I've had to set it up, I've just had it a completely separate line item because it's something very new this year. So I just wanted to check in to see if anyone had any other questions about on what's on the checklist, and then I will get into the 1099s. And you can just, I can't see everyone, so you could just unmute and ask your question.
So I wanted to know how to edit the checklist.
Oh, right. So I usually just download it. The email that David had sent out, I will click on the attachment and I'll download it, and I'll actually save a copy of it either on my desktop or in a folder for financials. And then you should be able to get in there and edit it. Do you have Excel, Mary?
Yes.
Okay. And then once you've saved the copy of it, you have to, at the very top of it, it might say enable editing.
Uh-huh.
And then you click on that button and then it will allow it to be edited. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
As you move into 1099s, I'll probably sign off. So I just want to thank
Yes,
you,
if
Danielle,
anyone doesn't have 1099s, good to see you. Thank you for
too.
coming.
Yes.
All right,
Good luck.
thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Well, I
Take
don't
care,
need the
Richard.
1099s either, so I think I'll head out. I've got another Zoom I might go to.
Yes, nice to meet
Thank
you.
you,
If
and,
you have if anything comes up, just email me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
All right,
Bye.
take
thank you.
care.
This has been helpful.
Bye. All right, so it's again under the reports. So we're just going to accounting and reports. And then if you scroll down, there's a 1099 report. And there's a new 1099 this year. Alice, let me know if this is not what you're talking about. Oh, I've got to move our faces. So when you come in, let's see, I was trying to find. I was trying to find someone that I hadn't already done this for this year. So I'll show you what it looks like when you first get in here, is you have to set up a rule for 1099. I don't know if you can see this down below where it says 1099 miss, and then it says new rule. So you would basically click on the new rule for the new 1099, which is this. Oh, it's funny. I have to move us. Oh, there we go. It's the 1099 NEC, which is the non-employee compensation. This is a new version of the 1099. So you basically would go in here and you would say new rule. And then you would just select all contacts. And you'll see here that I've gone through. So basically for San Antonio, it would be teacher honoraria, rarely, but sometimes program contractors, which would be staff. They used to have a director stipend, and then the contract labor and professional fees. So those were the accounts that I knew would possibly have someone who will trigger the 1099 threshold. So then you save and view the report, and it will give you who's above the threshold and then who's below the threshold. So if they've made less than 600, you're not required to send them a 1099. And now here's an example. So this is me, and for 2 reasons, I don't need a 1099. One is I am personally an S Corp. So you do not have to send a 1099 to someone who's a corporation, and I actually am technically a corporation, but I'm also paid for San Antonio through PayPal. So if you're paying someone through PayPal or potentially a credit card, you might have to check. PayPal supplies everyone with a 1099K. So you actually don't need to do a 1099 for anyone if you've paid them through PayPal. So how you would figure that out or exclude is you would basically go to the review button, and review is going to pull up every payment, and then you just go and you have to uncheck them, which is a little bit of a pain, but it will exclude them. And then you save and exit. So now it's just, these are basically, I'm sure you recognize Acharya Hardin, and Linda's a local teacher. So now I have not actually gotten the W-9s back from them yet. So once I get that information, I will put it in here. And you basically, when you click on review, it will open up, and then you can put their tax ID number here and their address and their email address. So you would update that. And it's always good to, to take a peek. I think that looks all accurate. So save and exit. And then if you want to, which I would recommend, to e-file, you just click on this e-file button, and you do have to pick an outside. Xero does not do it, but they contract with either Track 1099 or Tax 1099. I don't even know that it was $20 or $30. I haven't done them yet this year, but I did some with Richard the other day, and it was $2.99 a person. So you do have to set up an account with either of these 2 outside vendors, but it took like maybe 10 minutes and they were sent, and it was sent both to the IRS and emailed to the person. So I think if you want to mail it, there's an extra charge for that, but it's made 1099s a lot easier. So does anyone have any questions about 1099s? And Alice, I'm curious, is there a different California issue?
Yeah, it's just their criteria has changed for what they consider an independent contractor. And basically because of Uber.
Right.
So So, almost everybody on our list has their own business but teachers who teach at the Shambhala Center are, you know, they're not, they don't have their own, they're not independent contractors with their own sort of business.
Right.
And they're not doing something separate really from what we do at the center, which is like our cleaning person, their business is cleaning. We don't offer cleaning, so they come and do it for us.